to our third residency class. And today we have, of course, Jason Dukes with us, and he will give us an overview of the crypto ecosystem and DeFi. Jason has been with us, the BCA residency, as a mentor since the second cohort. Am I right, Jason? The second one, I think.
That's right. Yeah, the second group.
And is a strategist for life-giving NFT and metaverse engagement and co-founder of This & Co. But of course, he will introduce himself better than me. So thank you for being here, Jason, and I leave you the floor.
Thank you so much, Matilda. I appreciate the intro, and it's exciting to get to be with you guys. And I really enjoyed my time back in 2021 in the fall with the residency, the second residency group. I think some of the first residency group joined us for that particular call as well. But yeah, I sent a PDF in the chat. In the third residency third cohort chat, so you should be able to find that there. And if I'm going to walk through that, so if you want to pull that up, we'll kind of walk through that. But let me just say a couple things about what my hope is for our time, and then are you guys hearing me okay?
I am.
Okay.
Guys, are you all sure you have deafened, like the headphones?
Yeah, let's see. I know a few people in the chat are saying that they weren't, but it looks like some people are saying they're on now. So let me ask.
Tabelli, can you hear us?
Yeah, Chris said no.
Also,
Can you hear me now, Chris? I'll keep talking. How about that?
make sure to undeafen us so you can hear us. It's the button next to the mic.
Yeah, if everybody sees the headphones,
Exactly.
yeah, make sure that's clicked. I know Chabeli is saying from the PC, it's not coming through, but mobile, it's saying. Anna said mobile's good. So yeah, well, wait a second. I'll tell you what. I'll give an introduction of who I am,
Great.
and that way I can talk for a minute while everybody figures out the hearing element of it. So yeah, I was with that group, the second residency group, and that was so special, and some of even the friendships that came out of that, and so I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys being a part of this. You're a part of a really special group, and I look forward. I know last time I was able to even go in. I can't remember if Nicole sent it to me, Matilde, or if somehow I got who everybody was on Twitter, and oh, you know what it was? She had made a list, like a group, a VCA Residency 2 cohort group, I think it was, on Twitter. And so anyway, so if that's already available, if you will add me to it, and I'd love to connect, see who each of you are on Twitter. And then
oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
Yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
I think that Dylan created a sort of group of our cohort. Oh no, okay, don't worry, Dylan. If you want, I can do it now. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, let me know if I'm on that or not on it. But if I am, I'd love to. I'll check on it here after the call and try to make sure check out who each of you are, because I love to see your art and love to see what you are up to and what you're doing. And it was cool. I ended up getting to have some time with some of the artists in some different conversations after the call in the fall, and really appreciated what they were up to. So I'm thankful. So real quickly, who I am, just so you won't be talking or hearing a stranger today. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, here in the United States, and ended up meeting my wife in college. We've been married now for about 23 and a half years, and we've got a lot of kids and a yellow lab dog, and we live in the Middle Tennessee area now, and we are thankful for where we are and all the beautiful four seasons that we enjoy, but also thankful for the opportunities that it's provided. And one of the things is that it allowed me the chance to kind of engage and start a company called the Decent Co. And I'll post the website in the chat here in case anybody is interested in checking it out. But in starting the Decent Code, the hope was to kind of engage and learn, because I felt like I really, even though I've been in the space and understanding of the space now for about 2 years, I think I just still have so much to learn. And I think we all know that it moves at a pace and a speed that we all have trouble keeping up with. So what's been fun is being in a part of this, as I've been able to meet so many amazing artists and innovators and engineers and people who are imagining the future together. And so, anyway, that I'm hopeful that in our time today, you won't think that I'm just trying to give a presentation because I'm some expert. I'm not. I'm just learning at this the same way that you guys are. But I know for some of you, if you're like the second residency group, you entered into this space and you're an artist, and you know that you can do art and engage in this space. But some of you may know more about the crypto and DeFi ecosystems, and some of you may not. And so that was the hope, I think, when Nicole asked about this class, was that some of you could get an overview of that and at least begin to have a better understanding of the economy that you're engaging in. So let me pause for a minute, and I'm looking again into the chat, and let's see if we've gotten some of the hearing elements worked out. I know some of you are hearing me and some of you aren't. So if there's something on my end that you think I'm doing, let me know. But otherwise, is everybody starting to at least engage with the audio?
A lot of people are reconnecting with phones because the desktop version of Discord is not working right now. I don't know why.
Huh.
Mm.
It's working for me.
Perfect. Hi, Evie. Okay.
Good stuff. All right. So all good here on the desk and the app.
Yeah.
So at least I think from what Chavelli, I think, is saying, cell phones working. Anybody else still struggling with it? I don't know if it's anything else we can suggest, but sounds like the cell phone app is at least letting you catch the audio. Yeah, the browser, the app, I think that, Brian, I think the app is working. Maybe the browser engagement is not, but.
Yeah, I think Brian can't hear you right now. So,
Okay, good.
yeah. So
All right.
I don't know, actually. Maybe I think it's a problem. Okay, Phil is saying that I can hear. I don't know why. It's the first time that happens, this thing. So I don't know. Maybe we can go ahead because we are recording the class. So maybe people can rewatch it later. I don't know.
Yeah, with the recording, that'd be good.
Exactly, yeah.
All right.
And if they have any kind of question, I can forward them to you if necessary, even after the class, actually. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. And what I'm doing right now, I've got the chat open, the cohort chat open in front of me too. So if anybody has a question or anything, please, I'm looking at it while I'm talking as well. But yeah, if I miss one, highlight it for me, if you will. I don't want to miss any. And that's my goal. Like I did this with the class back in the fall too. Like I'm going to give some content, but I really would love to give a quick overview and then leave a lot of time for us to dialogue. I don't want to just talk your ear off in this. So let's take a look at the PDF and just walk through some of the basics of it together. And the PDF that I loaded in the chat. So if you go back up in the chat a little bit, you'll see a PDF called the Crypto Ecosystems and DeFi Overview that I put in. So if you get that and you pull it up, then you can walk through this with me. All right. So when you pull it up, obviously you see the first page. My bad, I didn't change the date on the front. This is the same one that I used back in the fall, and I didn't change that date. But nonetheless, you know what day it is. And so take a look at the second page where it says breaking down these terms. When you're looking, thinking about the blockchain and thinking about cryptocurrency, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence because I'm sure that every one of you could possibly explain this better than I can. But let's just assume that these terms are needed to be defined so that we're all clear. Cryptocurrency, it's simply a digital currency derived from cryptographic encryption techniques designed to protect a network. So it's basically a value designed into the way that a network remains secure and can securely transact, whether it's data or financial transactions, and interact together. And so crypto becomes the value of that security, basically, and how it protects the network. And so the blockchain, go ahead. Yep.
I'm sorry. Can you share the screen so we can maybe follow you better? I don't know if it's a problem for you or.
No, it's great. Let me do that.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're good. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right, I'll do 720 resolution, so it'll move the data a little bit better. But I think it still should be pretty plain.
Great.
Right?
So much. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, so thinking about these terms again, the next is the blockchain. And I'm curious, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you had to explain what the blockchain is to someone, how might you explain it to someone?
I've made an attempt a few times to explain the blockchain to people, although I'm not sure if I fully understand it. But I always kind of start with saying, like, let's say we all have $100 and you give 50 to them and you give 50 to them. Like, how would we keep track of that? And then kind of explain how there's no central entity anymore, but it's just like these blocks or these distributed ledger that keeps track of that, and that because of the encryption on top of it, it's very hard to kind of mess with. Yeah.
No, it's good. I think that's good. It's a good way to say it. I think it's amazing how simple it really is what's happening, and yet how difficult it is to explain, right? Like, because but if you could imagine a paper ledger and you're just adding, this financial transaction and this notation and this data transaction line after line after line after line onto a paper ledger, that's basically what you're building when the blockchain is being built. It's just a record of all of that. And so it becomes a public record, so to speak, right? It becomes something that people can look at and say, this happened, and so therefore this can happen. And that's why you'll hear people use the words trustless or permissionless, because the way the blockchain works is if it's an if-then proposition. If this has occurred or if this occurs, then this will occur. And that's the simplicity of how it works. And so it creates a little bit more recordable and readable and understandable and followable ledger, different from how a lot of times paper ledgers, people can end up hiding things in their books, or people can end up not having disclosure with what's going on in the data and the financial transfers. And so cryptocurrency and decentralized finance and the way that it all works on the blockchain gives opportunity for us to see it live and in person. And so then you see the smart contracts piece. And I'll read the definition there. It's just an irreversible contract that's built on code that exists on a blockchain, enabling anonymous contracts. Well, that's fancy language. The basic way to say it is what I just said. A smart contract is an if-then proposal. You write into code, when this happens, if it happens, then this will happen. And so Ethereum has its smart contracts, for example, and Cardano is adopting them now. Solana has them. And ICP, they don't call them smart contracts. The internet computer, they call it canisters. So there's different language and words for it, but it's very simply an if-then proposition. So moving on to the next one. What is Bitcoin? All right, now I'm going to turn my headphones off so that you can hear the sound. But tell me if you can't hear the sound. But this is a short 2-minute video, and I think you'll appreciate it. It's very simple, and it's created by a group that I'm connected with called CryptoHeat.io. And so let me take my headphones off, and I'll get it started.
I'm gonna change the window because it pulled it up on the browser, and then you should be able to hear it.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin, also known as BTC, is the parent of all modern cryptocurrencies. First proposed in a white paper in 2008 by the pseudonymous Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin is peer-to-peer digital money built on top of an open-source blockchain. So let's break this down. Peer-to-peer means that Bitcoin can be used directly by two parties without involving banks, private companies, or other financial institutions. Digital money. Bitcoin is software, zeros and ones. It does not exist in physical form like gold. Open source. This code is created by a community of people all over the world. It's not owned by any single person or company. Blockchain. A blockchain is a shared public ledger that records transactions. Right now, Bitcoin is used in multiple ways. As electronic cash, Bitcoin can be used to pay for things and transfer value directly between two parties. Some people think Bitcoin can be a long-term store of value. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins mined, and this cap on supply supports an argument that Bitcoin won't face inflationary pressure and should be considered a form of digital gold. An important side note about Bitcoin. Some people have assumed that you can only buy one whole Bitcoin at a time. This is not the case. You can buy tiny fractions of a Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, the smallest divisible unit of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. 100 million Satoshis make up one Bitcoin. So that's a start. To follow news, track prices, and learn more about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, check out CryptoHeat.io, your on-ramp to the world of cryptocurrency.
All right, so I personally, I really appreciate the simplicity of that, and I think it I think it offers a good overview for us to kind of get a grip on Bitcoin. And here's what's interesting: Bitcoin right now is certainly in the news and in the know, and people are paying a lot more attention to it than they ever have. You may like Bitcoin, you may not like Bitcoin, but what is difficult to argue with is that it is central to just how this whole decentralized finance and cryptocurrency ecosystem that is growing and growing and growing. Bitcoin is very central and foundational to all of it, not only because of its history and being developed first, but also because of the nature of how it is used. And so, for example, the gentleman Jack Dorsey that started Twitter, most of you may know that he left Twitter not too long ago. Some people like Jack, some people don't. He's a polarizing figure in some ways, but he is now is leading Block, which is the Web3 and the blockchain version of Square, the payment system, and the Cash app. I don't know if any of you use the Cash app, but he is now leveraging Bitcoin to be used because of how the Lightning Network scales it out. And so now the Cash app is going to be able to be used at kind of regular everyday speed at giving Bitcoin from peer to peer and even tipping people with Bitcoin. So I think you're going to see more and more usage. You're going to see more and more growth of its value. And you're going to end up eventually hearing people talk about Satoshis probably more than they talk about Bitcoin because of how Satoshis may potentially become a part of just what happens in everyday commerce. You're already seeing it in South America and several African and Western European cultures being used on more of an everyday basis. And so, curious, any of you that whether you have Bitcoin or how are you seeing it used where you are? Anyone?
I actually had, it's been about 10 years. Sorry, hello, Jason. Before that, I've been familiar with Bitcoin about 10 years by, kind of been neglecting it for so long. But at the same time, I couldn't save at all to get it. But I was pretty, familiar with it, and I knew that's how it would kind of help in the future to kind of make this for in between individuals, between making this transaction between individuals and making it transparent, in our everyday life and without any centralized bank. And I was actually looking for a prospect to actually bring this into between artists, how they make incomes. And yeah, I've been familiar with it for 10 years, and it's been used a lot in Iran, where I live, and because we are under sanctions, and we cannot use fiat-based money, and we use a lot of Bitcoin here, and people mine it a lot.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because I'm familiar with a couple of artists there who I know they have gotten themselves involved on some of the freelance network sites to where you can get hired for some freelance jobs as an artist, and so it's cool how it's providing a way for people who need an income of some sort, and maybe because of the sanctions and other things can have a chance to do that because of these unique opportunities with cryptocurrency. So that's really cool. Anybody else, just ways that you're seeing it used where you are?
Hey, thanks for the presentation. So I'm actually nearby a city called Vancouver, and North Vancouver, I believe, I don't know all the details about it, but it has recently moved or at least passed legislation to allow for 100% of the heating to come from Bitcoin mining, which is kind of insane to me. But in general, I'm just really interested in the sort of ecological implications and green energy investment that comes from Bitcoin mining. I think we always hear about the horror stories of like Bitcoin mining basically causing a humongous carbon output, which is not always the case. And I think it's something that's really misreported on.
I think you're right, and I appreciate you saying that, Chris. I love Vancouver, by the way. It's one of my favorite cities. But and it's interesting that they're already progressively thinking about how it could be used, and the heat that comes from the mining of it could be used to heat there. I think and I agree. I think it gets misreported. I think there's been a lot of really good research, particularly in the last 3 months, that has debunked some of those ideas that, and one in particular that caught my attention. There's several things that each of us use in everyday life that actually produces more of a carbon footprint than the mining of Bitcoin. So I think we'd be surprised by that. I do think the Lightning Network, if you're not familiar with the Lightning Network, you might want to check it out. It's not easy to get Lightning Coin yet. I think Pancake Exchange, the Pancake Swap, you potentially could get it, but the Lightning Network is what's going to be used to make the mining of it less energy heavy, and to make it also scalable onto a broader scale to be used in the Cash App and other things like that. And I'm assuming you guys know what I'm talking about when I say the Cash App. And so, and yeah, thanks for posting that, Chris. I look forward to reading that on how Bitcoin will be used to heat North Vancouver buildings. That's awesome. So good stuff there. Well, there's probably a whole lot we could say about Bitcoin. I just more than anything wanted to start there because it is the foundation that led to all of these things. Ethereum was then the second really, really essential and central cryptocurrency that came into being, came into existence. And so let me show you a quick 1.5 minute video on that, and then we'll ask a few questions on it as well. So let me make sure I'm showing that one. And then I'll hit play. You guys are seeing the video?
Yes.
What is Ether? Ether, also called ETH, is an open source digital currency and the native cryptocurrency used on the Ethereum network. A key to understanding Ether is to understand Ethereum, an open source programmable blockchain upon which software developers can build decentralized applications, or dApps. A dApp can be almost anything. Here are a few examples. Decentralized financial services. Imagine being able to borrow, lend, or invest without a bank or company in the middle. Prediction markets, where people can bet on the outcome of events. Games where you can earn, own, and trade in-game assets. The key thing to remember here is that all of these things can be built on top of Ethereum, and ETH is the native cryptocurrency used for this blockchain. Because Ethereum, and consequently ETH, is open source and decentralized, there is no company, organization, or individual that controls ETH. So that's a start. To follow news, track prices, and learn more about Ether and other cryptocurrencies, check out cryptoheat.io, your on-ramp to the world of cryptocurrency.
All right. So curious, how many of you, because some of you probably from, at least if it's like the second residency cohort, you may have more engagement with Tezos, which I actually, by the way, really love. I really dig Tezos. But you may have more interactivity with Tezos than you do ETH. But I'm curious, if you are interacting with Ethereum in any way, how are you using Ethereum, or how are you seeing it used where you are?
I can give a bit of a story to that, how I've been using it. So yeah, I've been selling cryptocurrencies in Ethereum, and I'm from the Netherlands, and I have a European bank account, and I live in Egypt. So I had to pay some friends like money who have Egyptian bank accounts, and it was just so difficult to do it. I've even lost like money trying to do bank transfers. And now at some point, yeah, I just sent them Ethereum because they want to get into the crypto space. And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it this way. It arrives in 30 seconds and there's no hassle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool. And so, and when you've sent it, I'm curious, when you've sent it, how have the gas fees been in the sending?
I think gas fees for a regular transaction was probably around $10-20. It varies a bit. Yeah, it was quite significant amounts for like trips or rents and things like that. But yeah, gas fee is definitely, you know, you're not going to give your friend $10 and then also pay $10 in gas.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's an issue of the scalability of Ethereum, right? And so I get asked a lot by people, why do we pay all these gas fees? And if you saw in the video when it showed the map, right, of the world, and it showed the decentralized icons, right? This person here and this person here and this person there. It's true that there isn't one particular company or group that controls Ethereum. So where do all the gas fees go, right? Well, I mean, the different wallets and exchanges will take a cut, but the people who are doing the proving and the approving across that decentralized network end up getting a share of those gas fees. And so I think what Ethereum did is it opened the door for really incredible technology and software and engagement together, both from a personal and as well as a business level. It opened that up from a Web3 and a blockchain perspective. And so Ethereum is really the cryptocurrency responsible for it. And some people don't like to hear this, but the truth is it really is responsible for inspiring the launch of the other cryptocurrency protocols that are now gaining a lot of steam and a lot of favorability. So, for example, Tezos, which I think a lot of you may use or may have engagement with. Again, I really dig Tezos and what they're doing and all of the ways that it's being used. But if you use Tezos, you know just as well as I do that there's hardly any gas fee. And so I think it is what was happening with Ethereum that really pushed the innovation, because people realized that the gas fees that were being charged by Ethereum, they're not scalable. It's not going to scale out to a larger population. And so groups like Loopring, Polygon, or Matic, if you're familiar with those are groups that are layer twos of Ethereum. They're built on Ethereum, but they're a layer two or a side chain is what some people call it. And they're what will be used to scale Ethereum, similarly to how Lightning Network will be used to scale out or to allow Bitcoin to be more widely used, if that makes sense. And so those are the two foundational pieces to how all of this ecosystem even works. So now let me make sure I'm sharing the PDF again. And let's look at it again together. So you move on to the next, the evolution of cryptocurrency. And this is basically what I just said, but I just wanted you to have it in visual form. You see 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto mines. 2011, Litecoin launches. 2012, Ripple is founded. Some people criticize Ripple and say it's not really cryptocurrency, but Ripple is founded. Ripple will very much be central to how money is moved internationally. And so it's a company that you probably want to pay attention to. The price of a single Bitcoin reaches 1,000 in 2013. Ethereum launches in 2015. All of a sudden, by 2017, all these other cryptocurrencies are innovated, and they are mainly, again, because Ethereum opened the door for that. EOS came on the scene in 2018 and offered a lot of promises for decentralized apps. A lot of that didn't come to fruition, and so now you fast forward to today, and you see the people who are leading out and creating the decentralized apps that will be more used in the everyday. And so let's talk about those crypto ecosystems. And this is where I don't want to spend a lot of time. It's why I sent you the PDF, because it would be overwhelming if I just sat here and talked to you about each of these. But you've got the visual, right? So you can at least walk through and look at how these various crypto ecosystems work. And so we've talked about Ethereum, we've talked about Bitcoin, I've mentioned some of these others. You can see here that the basic crypto ecosystem involves exchanges, involves wallets, involves the blockchain platform, which is the ledger in the background, right, where everything's linking together. It does now involve stable coins because of how people wanted the cryptocurrency to engage with actual fiat money. The stable coin then allows for some type of physical and standardized fiat to engage with it. There's tooling now to allow you to leverage and build on and understand and analyze what's happening on the blockchain. And then decentralized finance are ways that then the finance is being used, right? Whether it's a banking concept or a loan or the way that grants are given out for development or so on and so forth. And then you have the gaming and the NFT space. You see Axie on there. I'm curious, how many of you are in any way a part of Axie Infinity, or you get to play Axie Infinity or any other of the games that you see listed on here?
Not really. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I would say check them out. I'm friends with one of the guys that helped develop it, but I think it's pretty neat. It's a play to earn concept. But you look on here, you see Gala Games. They've developed a lot of opportunity to help people even in communities where there might be significant poverty and they don't have an engagement because they're bankless. They don't have an engagement with the global financial system. Well, oddly enough, it's these games that become a bridge into the global financial system for a lot of people. And so it's opening up opportunity where opportunity wasn't before. You can see on there OpenSea, which obviously you're all probably very familiar with. Audius is a music streaming and music NFT concept. If you've not heard of it, it's worth checking out. You see Audius there, the purple A in the gaming and NFT space. What's missing on here? I'm curious if you got an eye for this. What now has become really important? Because if you look at the date, this is June of 2021 when this particular visual was made. What now has become important in the crypto ecosystem that isn't listed on here?
Not sure if this is what you're hinting at, but it's interesting that NFTs and gaming have been boxed in together when I feel like NFT platforms could have like their own box completely.
Yeah, no question. That's definitely one of the things missing, right? That NFTs have taken a life of their own, haven't they? And I think people are waking up to the reality that NFTs will have some sort of touch into every aspect of commerce and business and into probably every aspect of how we engage with cultural arts. And then more than that, the one that probably scares all of us the most is that it will have NFTs will likely end up even being linked to the way our identities are verified. And so it's interesting, but that's just kind of the reality of where we're going from a tech and a metaverse standpoint. And so there's one other thing too, though. You're exactly right. NFTs being boxed in, they've definitely taken a life of their own. What's something else maybe that's missing if you're familiar with this particular aspect of the crypto ecosystem that's growing at a very fast rate?
I don't see Tezos. I'm looking for it. Maybe I'm
Yep.
missing it. I don't see it.
Yeah. So when this particular one was made, I thought it was on there. If it's not, it's on one of the ones that's coming up, one of the other visuals. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Tezos really is taking at least a seed in the top 5 as far as development goes, and so I think you're going to see it continue to grow at a significant rate. But let me ask this, and how many of you have heard of what's called a DAO, a DAO?
I was just going to say my next guess was DAOs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that June last summer, when this visual was made, and it's made by a very reputable group, right? The Coin 98 Analytics group. When they made this, DAOs were that new that they didn't even make this particular visual. And yet, if this visual was made today, it would be required for DAOs to have their own box, just as much as it would be for NFTs to have their own box. And so, just so that you're familiar with it, because I think if you haven't already noticed this, you're going to notice it more and more in the coming months, that even NFT projects are going to likely start forming into DAOs. And they're going to do that for 2 reasons. One, because it creates its own unique economy that can then be mitigated and people can invest in. But then secondly, it creates a chance for greater collaboration. And so, for example, the Ultra DAO, how many of you have heard of Woody's, right? My profile picture on Twitter and on here on Discord is a Woody NFT. How many of you have heard of the Woody's project?
Started by Chris Wallace.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris Wallace is the one who founded that, and he founded Ultra DAO. And there's an incredible group of artists and developers and writers and creators that are a part of Ultra DAO, and that Woody's is not their only project. They're working toward other projects. They support other projects, and then each of the people that are a part of Ultra DAO support each other in the various projects that they take part in. That's the beauty of it, is that collaboration gives you a support system, right? So you're not out on your own. And so I just would encourage each of you to begin researching DAOs and the opportunities that they allow for you to create a collective of artists, a collective of engineers, a collective of innovators and futurists who can all work together. And then you may end up working on projects together, and you'll find, I think, that the success of the projects will be greater because of the level of collaboration and the network that's also then involved with that collaboration. Does that make sense? So let me pause right there and just ask any questions so far before I mind numb you with the rest of these visuals on the ecosystems. Any questions so far?
Hi, this is Anna. I'm sorry, I was a little bit late.
That's okay.
And if you answered it, ignore me. But how do blockchains make money? Like, how does Desos make money, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's several ways. One of the ways that they make money is simple investment. So in other words, someone might put capital, they'll transfer capital from one currency system into the Tezos currency system. And because at its base level, don't forget that cryptocurrency is currency, right? So just like if you fly somewhere and you decide that you want to trade your native fiat dollar or native fiat currency, fiat, by the way, I'm assuming you all know what I mean by that, but let me not assume that and tell you that fiat was simply, it basically is what the king's money was, right? So the King of England, for example, back in the day said, this is the official currency, and that fiat stamp placed on it made it official that was the paper or the physical currency that could be exchanged in that day. So you still use that language So the fiat American dollar or the fiat Canadian dollar or the fiat euro, whatever, the fiat pound, those are the kinds of ways that you might think of the physical currency. So if you flew somewhere and you had your native fiat currency, you would exchange it for another fiat currency, and that then puts more capital from one currency into another currency. Does that make sense? And so at its base level, cryptocurrency is simply a currency, and it makes money when more currency is exchanged from a valuable currency system. So that's the first way that it makes money. The second way that it makes money is it begins taking small amounts out of every transaction that occurs. Now we're used to this, whether we know it or not, because if you use a credit card, every time you use a credit card, there's a small fee incorporated into the pricing of what's going on. And the business ends up paying that fee, but that fee is shared into the pricing that occurs in a business. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah.
in that so in that way, that small fee because of the volume of transactions and exchanges that occur on Tezos, for example, that small fee then creates money for Tezos itself. And then also, though, Tezos is decentralized. So really that money goes to the various people that are approving and engaging in those transactions. And then it allows for the buildup of money to invest in projects on Tezos. And then the currency that comes into those projects gets shared back with the people that have invested into it. So there are more ways that I could explain, but those are the three basic ways that it makes money. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, it's just so surprising to me to see that, Tesla's just announced that they're, I think, sponsoring Manchester United soccer.
Yeah.
And I know they sponsor Formula One, and they have this foundation that does incredible work. And so it's just, obviously these things are getting paid out in dollars. I mean, I assume Manchester is taking pounds or whatever, probably not Tezos, but that just to, I guess, understand sort of if those transactions, if that amount of cash value is being generated by the art transactions, or I guess where else is Tezos so active that it's generating that kind of volume?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, right now, I would say I'm going to show you. Let's go ahead and move to that slide because I think it'll help answer this question. So you're still seeing, if I am seeing my shared screen correctly, yeah, you're still seeing the crypto ecosystem slide. So let me move you through these. Let me answer your question by moving you to one particular slide. Is that okay?
Sure,
So
thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So notice this next one. You see exchanges, asset management tools. You can see MetaMask right in the middle, right? You probably all have a MetaMask. Stable coins and various services. This is an Ampleforth and kind of a pancake swap. All these various types of Ethereum-based. This is the Ethereum ecosystem, basically, right? It has all of these pieces linked to it. And this again was created last year, and so it's got some updates now that would have to be put on there, but they haven't released a new one, is why I haven't updated it. So then here's another one. This is for Binance. Binance has its own ecosystem. You may know of the Binance Coin and the Binance Exchange. Cardano has its own ecosystem. I did a transaction yesterday for an NFT with someone with Cardano, and am using that for the Decent Co, the company that I started. And so so that's its own ecosystem in and of itself. Solana, I'm sure you've all heard of. It's growing leaps and bounds. The XRP or Ripple ecosystem, you can see it there. Again, I sent you this visual, this PDF in the chat, so I wouldn't have to mind numb you by walking through each one of these extensively. So Polkadot is one, Terra you can see there, and this is the one I wanted to show you. So the top, and by the way, this was from November or October, excuse me, of this last year. I haven't gotten some updated data on this yet. I'll update it in the next 3, 4, 5 months because it kind of takes some time to see the real pattern. But top 12 crypto market cap comparison, you can see how much this is based on fiat American dollars, right? That Bitcoin is, this is the 1 trillion. Ethereum is in the 495 billion, Binance 80 billion, Cardano 71 billion, and so on and so forth. You can see it even down to Shiba, which is 16 billion, right? Like, it's crazy the amount of capital, money, actual currency, fiat currency that's been invested in each of these. And so to answer your question, I think it was Anna, right? To answer your question, or Anna Maria, is that right?
Anna's great. Thank you.
Great, yeah. So to answer your question, Anna, when you look at this particular slide, you see that that's what I'm talking about when I say someone took currency from one value system, and in this case, it's just giving that value and evaluation in the fiat American dollar. But someone could have invested in Bitcoin with the yen, with the euro, with the Canadian dollar, the American dollar, whatever. There's so many. There's a variety, obviously, of those types of fiat currencies. And so one of the major ways that the Tezos Foundation and the other elements of what Tezos is doing, that they're able to do it, is because of how much fiat currency has been exchanged from fiat into Tezos. And then they then invest it and they loan it out and they build it up and grow interest with it in the various ways that they use it, just like a bank does with our money, with the fiat money. And that way they're able then over time to grow it exponentially, and they have more and more to use to do for a variety of things. So this is what's impressive, though. Watch this. So that's the top 12, and from a crypto market cap comparison. Think about this right here. This was in October when I made this slide. So in October of 2020, the amount of money in the top 12 cryptocurrencies, the amount of fiat American dollar equivalent in the top 12 cryptocurrencies was $392 billion. In October of 2021, right, it was let me make sure I'm reading this right, 100,000 million, but 2,153,617,664,416 fiat American dollar equivalent. That is an astronomical jump. And so when you ask the question, how did Tezos get all that money? Well, from October 2020 to October 2021, it's thousands of percentage growth from the amount of fiat equivalent dollars that were transferred, exchanged over into the various cryptocurrency exchanges. So does that kind of give you an overview, a bit of an understanding of why and how they've gotten the majority of their money, but then they've also developed products and developed art exchanges and developed financial exchanges and developed apps and all of these various things that also are bringing in transactions and money, and they're growing at an exponential rate. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. That may have been more than you wanted to know, but I thought that would illustrate, based on your question, I thought it would illustrate how much money has been transferred and exchanged over into these various projects. It's a pretty crazy and insane amount of money that I know, I don't want to speak for any of you, but money that I know our family can't even comprehend, right? It's hard to even comprehend $2,153 billion. So all that to say, that's why you're seeing the level of growth and the amount of money that's being used in the space because of that. Let me pause there and just and pause for any other questions. All right, so these are some of the others. I mentioned Ethereum, and I mentioned um, Bitcoin, Binance, Cardano, Tether, Solana, Ripple, Polkadot, Dogecoin, Center, Terra, Shiba. We've looked at those from that top 12 crypto market comparison. And again, that was in October of 2021. Those are all cryptocurrency projects, protocols that are in the crypto and DeFi ecosystem. Okay. And then you look at the Tezos ecosystem, right? It's interesting that even in October of 2021, that the Tezos ecosystem didn't make it into that top 12, right? And so even since then, how quickly it's grown and how much is happening. And so they take all of that money that's been exchanged into Tezos and use it to sponsor Manchester United, as you said, and use it to sponsor the Formula One car. And why are they doing that, right? Like why would crypto.com, for example, have a Super Bowl commercial? Why would crypto.com want to put their name on where the Los Angeles Lakers play? Why would Tezos want to sponsor Manchester United? What do you guys think?
I mean, crypto.com's a centralized business, so for them, the more people trading on the platform, the more fees they make. So in that case, it's pretty straightforward. I think for advertising decentralized exchange like chains like Tezos, it's more of a question of just getting more people using their chain to develop apps on their chain, to trade art and whatever else applications on their chain, so that it generates more fees for the foundation. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. But I mean, it's driving more and more people. They feel like that type of marketing and that type of engagement with those teams and with the various businesses and different sports and different other elements of the arts, they feel like that's going to draw more people to them. And to be honest, it really has. I mean, Tezos is one of the fastest growing right now, and I think Solana is as well. And ETH has competition now for the first time in a way that it really hasn't. And so I think you're going to see Object and FX Hash and other types of NFT platforms, and then you go to Solana and the various SolC and the various ones in Solana and Intrapo, which is on Internet Computer Protocol, and you're talking about these have become serious competitive NFT platforms to what we have known in the ETH ecosystem. So all that to say, I think their engagement in trying to let the mainstream know more and more about them is going to drive more and more developers to create those products and drive more and more people to it. And so that's a big reason why they do it. Real quick, I'll wrap these up and then we'll spend the last bit of our time in questions. So Cosmos is another protocol that if you don't know about it, I would encourage you to pay attention to it. They are really, they and Internet Computer Protocol are really the first two major cryptocurrency groups, protocols, ecosystems to try to bridge all of the things that are going on in the vast and overarching crypto ecosystem. So Cosmos is trying to create some inner protocol or some bridges between Ethereum, Bitcoin, Tezos, Ripple, so on and so forth, Solana. Cosmos is building the technology to try to bridge all of those things. One of the founders of Ethereum is who branched out and started Cosmos. And so, again, I actually do a lot of investing in interactivity on the Cosmos network, and I can tell you, at least 3/4 of the time, my gas fee doing those types of transactions, it's a fraction of a penny. It's a fraction of 1 cent. I mean, it's 0.00000 something cent. And so they've created a very widespread way to move things at much less, and yet still, because they've recognized that the exchange makes them money, but all of these other products being bridged together, is going to make even more money. And so whoever cracks that code, so think about this, like I have NFTs that are Ethereum based, Matic Polygon based, Tezos based, um, Internet Computer Protocol based, Cardano based. Like I've got NFTs across all of those platforms, and I think, man, I wanna be able to pull them all into one place, and that's not easy to do, right? There are certain metaverse galleries that are beginning to allow that to happen, like on Cyber and Spatial and groups like that. But on Cyber and Spatial, right, there's some limitations there as well. How cool would it be if you could pull all your collectibles and all these various NFTs that you've engaged with into one space so that they all could be bridged together? That's the kind of thing that Cosmos is trying to do, and that the Internet Computer System, or Definity community, is trying to do. So I just wanted to include these two on there so that you're aware of it, so that if you're forward thinking and you are looking ahead and trying to say, I want to get ahead of the game, well, my suggestion to you is, if you want to get ahead of the game, then learn about Tezos and Cosmos and the Internet Computer Ecosystem, and then stay abreast of what's happening with the Lightning Network with Bitcoin, and with the Loopring network, and Polygon Matic with Ethereum, and then Solana in its own ecosystem. So last thing here, there's lots of use cases for the DeFi, for cryptocurrency, for the blockchain, and this is just a few of them, right? You've got government identification, mobile payments, insurance. I won't read through all of these, but you can look back at this visual, and there, for those of you that are entrepreneurial and creative, you may look at this and go, oh man, that inspires me to think about this development, or what if we went down this road, or what if I created this, right? And so that could inspire you to look towards something that doesn't exist currently, but you could create. And here right now are the top use cases. It's peer-to-peer borrowing and lending, yield farming, which is where basically in the lending and all of that, you're yielding back some of the interest. Liquidity pools, where people pool their money together to do peer-to-peer borrowing and yield farming. Staking, which actually is really cool. It allows a blockchain to have some stability if you stake your cryptocurrency that you own, for instance, of let's say, like, for example, with an Internet Computer Protocol, like I have a certain amount of Internet Computer Protocol coin staked in ICP for 8 years. I staked it for the next 8 years. And so that provides stability for ICP to do and develop, and like you, Anna, like you asked about how do they have money for these things? Well, they're using some of that money, and they're going to make that money back that's been staked in their projects, if that makes sense. And so then Dexes, which are decentralized exchanges, currency exchanges. So Uniswap is one that you're probably familiar with. NFTs is a use case, obviously, which is why you're doing the residency. And then we talked about DAOs, right? And so here's some things to pay attention to. I mentioned cryptoheat.io. It's an incredible place to keep up to date and be educated on the vast cryptocurrency ecosystem. You can see all of the ones that are listed there. Student Coin is one that's up and coming. XRP and Spark and Flare is another one. I mentioned Cosmos Network. Osmosis is on the Cosmos Network. Alliance Block is for businesses. It's going to be used, and then you can keep going. Another Cosmos Network piece here, Internet Computer. And so I'm going to stop there now that I've overwhelmed all of you with a crazy ton of information, and let you ask questions. And any questions you want to ask about the crypto ecosystem, about decentralized finance, or about how you as a creator and a part of this residency, and where you want to go with your career and your intention and your focus with this, you can ask questions related to that and how it might play into the various elements of this ecosystem. So shoot with any questions you might have, and we'll spend the rest of our time doing that.
Uh, Hello again, Jason. I have a question about, I have this question of, for example, I work on different platforms on different ecosystems. I put work on Ethereum and also put work on different platforms on Tezos. But I have this question is that how can I manage, in the social networks? How can I manage working between these two different ecosystems with two different communities? You see some people, for example, have different attitudes toward Tezos, and some people have different attitudes toward Ethereum. And this kind of, controversies, different ideas, really somehow, for example, when I publish something on Tezos, things will be different for the people who collect from me on Ethereum. And how, as an artist, we can manage to have all this community together, like we work on different platforms on different ecosystems, and keep all of these people happy, without any making any kind of I don't know how to say it, without making, keeping our work, keeping the value as we go, and manage and balance the way we publish our works in different ecosystems. I hope my question makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. And I love that you asked that question. I mean, I think, and tell me again, because I know I see CG Cortex, but what can I call you?
You can call me Ahmad. I'm Ahmad Mustafi, and
Okay.
you can call my first name Ahmad.
Okay, good stuff.
Thank
Ahmad.
you.
I hope I'm saying it right, Ahmad. And Jason, my name. And so I love that you asked that question, because one of something that I hope for is that we can figure out a way to keep the community together. And because in the decentralized way that we've built all these various cryptocurrencies and protocols, it's almost creating separate groups and silos that don't know how to work with each other. I think what you're going to see, and I think that's what you're asking, is how do we keep it? How do we engage as an artist or a creator on these various spaces, and yet try to keep that community together of all the people that are collecting and that are encouraging and that are a part of appreciating what you do? I think that's what I'm hearing you ask, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so I love the question again, because one of my biggest passions is we've got to figure that out. And I was on a call right before this call, actually, a business meeting, where we were brainstorming about a particular app, decentralized app that hopefully will be part of that solution. And I think I believe, and I think you're going to see it over the next 12 months, that what you just asked, you're seeing into the future with that question, because I'm watching behind the scenes a lot of development toward trying to help make that happen. So, for example, one of the engineers and artists that I work with has done some really, really popular projects that you would know if I mentioned their names. And so he and the team that he works with, they're trying to figure out how to do an NFT drop that bridges together Ethereum and Tezos. And so it's exciting to me when I found out what they were doing, because I think it's an example of how a creator can leverage both systems, right? And make the most of both, so that people who love Ethereum and who want to only interact with Ethereum can do it, and they can be a part of that project. But then people who dig Tezos and they only like Tezos, or they only like Solana or whatever, they can also be a part of that project. And so I think you're going to see in the next 12 months technology that comes out that helps to create that bridge, although it is, and I'll make a comment about that in just a second. You're going to see technology come out, but I think you're going to see creators and innovators and engineers start working and trying to bring the two or the three or four different systems together as well. Does that make sense? I hope I'm answering your question.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think what you mean is that we need to take the time to make the culture as we go, and also different tools to bridge between these two different these few different systems to actually, make this balance.
Yes, you're exactly right, and that culture shaping is really important, isn't it? Right? I mean, it's if we aren't careful to shape the culture so that we still stay together in what we're doing, we'll lose part of the power of the decentralized ecosystem. And so, Jean, I think just said, isn't that depending a lot on ETH 2.0? Yes. And I think we're all, I don't know if y'all have seen the meme. So if somebody wants to try to find it and post it in the chat, please do. But there's a meme of an older lady with a walker and her granddaughter or someone beside her walking, and the older lady is saying something like, yes, I'm just waiting for ETH 2.0 to come out, or something like that. And I think it's a funny meme because if you've been in around the ecosystem long enough, ETH 2.0 ETH 2.0 is something that's been promised for a long time, right? And so, so it's it's not here yet, and yet people keep saying it's going to be the solution that's going to help create the scalability and the bridgeability. But in the meantime, and I'll be honest, if I'm this is just my opinion, I'm not sure that it will create what they're promising. And I think it's part of the reason why it hasn't come out yet, because it's very difficult to bridge protocols. Like that's the comment I was going to make a while ago, is to build the bridge between an Ethereum protocol and a Tezos protocol, or Bitcoin and Solana. To build the bridge between the two, it's not secure. It's super difficult to create security there. It would almost be like having $1 trillion in the back of an armored car and riding down the street with the doors open, and anyone can come up and walk up to you because you're only going a few miles an hour or a few kilometers an hour, and people can walk up and just see what you have in the back of your armored car. Like that's what the bridge is like right now. It's not secure at all. So there's difficulty in bridging the two. So that's the technology that's got to be developed. So any of you that are engineers, if you get inspired and end up creating it, let me know, because I know some people that want to invest in it. But all that to say, the other side of it, though, that I think we can do in the meantime, Ahmad, is we can say we can do. So there's a project that I recently worked on called Iconic World, and we did the first few drops more to prepare for a generative drop that we're going to be doing later this year. And so for Iconic World, we decided to put a certain amount of the NFTs on ETH and a certain amount on Tezos. And then eventually we'll also put some on Solana, and we'll put some on the Internet Computer Protocol. And why are we doing that? Well, because we want to keep the communities together. And we feel like that it's the projects and the brands and the purposes that will keep them united at this moment until the technology bridges are able to be built. So I hope that answers your question, Aman.
It was just fantastic response. Thank you very much, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question about gas fees.
Yes.
Will gas fees remain the same? I guess, I don't know if you can even answer this, but will gas fees remain an issue until ETH 2.0 comes out? Like, I'm wondering if there's something that might be able to be done or that they're working on in the meantime. And also I wonder like who they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the word that gets thrown around, but we never say who's behind it, right? So, yeah, to answer your question, Anna, I think, and forgive me because I want to honor each of you. Is it Anna or Anna? I want to say it correctly.
Anna's fine. Thank you for asking.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Each of you are incredibly beautiful and wonderful people, and so I want to honor you. We all hopefully can be honoring of each other. And so, Anna, I would say that that they, first of all, are. I'll give some specifics. So for Ethereum in particular, the they right now it's Loopring and Polygon and Matic. There are other people working on it, but Loopring is working hard to try to figure out how to create a side chain. And what I mean by that is if you've got the regular blockchain, Loopring is working to make a way for you to do the transaction through Loopring back to Ethereum, which is why it's called Loopring, if that makes sense. And they're trying to make it to where you can do that so that you can avoid the huge gas fees. Matic, in a similar way, the Polygon network, is creating a layer 2 on top of ETH to where you can move things into Matic and interact there and then easily move them back to Ethereum. Now, right now, there's still a heavy gas fee to move in some things over into Matic and move it back. But once you're on the Matic side, all of the transactions and the NFT elements and the various ways that gas fees are assessed, it all kind of goes next. You're almost down to zero, right? So those are the two groups working hard at it right now. And then the ETH 2.0 developers are people that are supported by the ETH Foundation and the nonprofit element of ETH. Those developers are also trying to figure out how to continue to scale out Ethereum and create an ETH 2.0, like a second version that doesn't require all of the high gas fees. And the gas fees are determined by number of transactions, number of the value, the amount of fiat and the amount of exchange that's occurring into Ethereum from a positive standpoint, and then just the traffic that's occurring across the network, right? So the gas fees change and go up and down because of that. That's why you'll have gas fees at a certain amount in certain times of the day, because in the way that all of our time zones work, there's a few gaps, right, where certain people and the large users are asleep or the large users are not on the network at that point. If you can get there, you can find typically lower gas fees. But I would just say, in final answer to your question, I would just say I think lower gas fees are coming. I'm personally thankful that we've had some higher gas fees, mainly because I think it's inspired innovation. I think it's pushed people to create protocols and blockchains that have much lower, and some of them very, very low, almost nothing gas fees. And I don't know how we scale this out to people who didn't get rich on Bored Apes and didn't buy Ethereum when it was $80, 80 American dollars value. Like, I don't know how we scale this out otherwise, right? Because I don't know anyone that's going to do a bulk mint or a big mint of an NFT if we have to keep paying $100, $200, $300, $400 for that. And I know I'm at the place now, especially in the last 6 months, where if I'm getting an Ethereum NFT, I don't buy it. Even if I miss it, even if I miss the opportunity, I don't buy it if I have to pay more than $100 gas fee, and I really try to get it close to 60. But even that, I do it, and I'm still cussing under my breath, right? Like I'm still like going, I don't want to pay $60 extra for this. So I do get that the people who approve and help approve across the network, we should be valuing them. So it doesn't bother me to pay something. And I mean that. Like, it doesn't bother me to pay something because we need to value the people that are allowing the transactions to occur and approving them and keeping security high across the network. But we just need to figure out a way to lower it some so that it will increase the volume so that they will still get paid, but it'll just be because more volume has come instead of higher prices. Does that make sense?
Yes, a lot. Thank you so much.
If I
Yeah,
could piggyback on that a little bit, Jason, thanks.
Yeah.
From what I've heard a little bit is that it's actually a bit of a misconception that gas fees, maybe initially they will go down once we merge to ETH2, but just with the scaling up of usage of the like layer one Ethereum level, a lot of the sources that I've been listening to a lot more recently, especially, have been sort of positing that we're actually most of the time for the average Joe will be interacting on a layer two, and that's where the decrease in gas fees will end up being passed on. The Ethereum itself, the actual layer one chain, will just end up being a settlement layer, and all of the NFT trading, all of the interactions, apps, whatever, will actually end up being on a layer two, like Loopring, like Matisse, like Polygon, whichever. Just curious on your thoughts on that.
Well, I think you're exactly right, and that was what I was referring to by talking about Polygon network and Loopring. So Chris, I think it's brilliant what you're saying. I mean, I think that's what you're going to see. It's why I'm such a fan of Tezos. I mean, I know some of the NFT artists that I consult with. I know back in September, I remember a particular call I was on with one. And I was very blunt. I was very candid and said, look, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think you should not launch on Ethereum. like I think you need to be a pioneer and be one of the first major artists that moves to Tezos or moves to Solana or even moves to Internet Computer Protocol, which, by the way, if you aren't paying attention to Internet Computer Protocol and the Entrepot, and I'll spell it in the chat. Entrepot is the NFT exchange, the one that's most popular for Internet Computer Protocol. There's a lot of value being exchanged on the Internet Computer Protocol Entrepot NFT marketplace. So don't miss it. And the gas fees there are nothing, right? Just they're as much, if not lower, than the Tezos gas fees and the Solana gas fees. So like I agree, Chris. I think if you can move, so I'll give you an example. If you've heard of the Fly Frogs NFT project, I don't know if any of you have. They're a lot of fun. They're really cool NFTs, and the community's fun, and there are a couple imitations. There are a couple imitations out there, so be careful. Make sure you go to the right one. But Fly Frogs is an example. So Fly Frogs, and I'll type it out here. So Fly Frogs ended up using Matic or Polygon Network in order to breed their original ETH NFTs to produce tadpoles, right? So I know that all sounds silly and funny, and it was silly and funny, but they ended up, because they didn't want people to pay a ton in gas fees, they wrote a smart contract that allowed you to bulk mint on Matic, and then it ended up creating some NFTs that can bridge across Matic and Ethereum. And so it was pretty amazing what they did with that. And it was one of their female developers. Her Twitter name is Molecule. I'll type it out here. But Molecule developed, this cross-chain minting process, and I mean, it's amazing how it worked out, and it was really seamless and easy. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, Chris, to your point, so that the gas fees can start to be minimal and more people will engage. So anything else? I hope I haven't overwhelmed you.
Yeah, if we still have some time, I would love to ask you. You have mentioned DAOs briefly, and I've been looking around. What would you advise to look for at DAOs, except of course, like whether the community kind of the soft side fits you with you, but more on like the hard side, because sometimes it just feels like it's just a Discord server that calls itself a DAO. Yeah, it's sometimes for me a little bit hard to understand what's really going on.
No, that's a great question. And I mean, I think, and again, and Anna or Anna, which one do you prefer?
Anna.
Anna, okay, good, thank you. And so Anna, I would say three things. One, and some of you may not like what I'm about to say because it almost sounds like it goes against decentralization, but I am finding that the DAOs that have decentralized the ability to make proposals and to innovate together rather than just the ability to govern and make a decision, I've found that the DAOs that have delegated some of the decision making power to maybe a group of 50 or 75 or 100, but then have made it totally accessible for anyone to make a proposal or to be a part of innovation. I've just have seen it so far that those DAOs tend to be the ones that actually work. And those DAOs tend to be the ones that actually see the level of investment and value of your investment that you would invest in the DAO. They're seeing that investment grow. Again, I don't mean to fly in the face of decentralization because I actually love and am passionate about decentralization on its fullest extent and collaboration to its fullest extent. But I just think right now, because of the tools that we have available, you're exactly right, Anna, that if you don't have a very focused governance group that stays very focused on the purpose of the DAO, then the DAO doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of sits there. But if you have a focused governance group that really works at creating community and creating togetherness and reminding of purpose and updating with news and then that also gives serious energy to mitigate the value of what's invested in the DAO. Those are the DAOs that are really working right now. So that's one thing you want to look for is, do they have a dedicated team and a focused group that's helping to run and govern it? Because if they don't, I think it tends to just sit there and you end up losing your investment. So that's one. I think the second thing is, you said it already, but you want to look for one that you know you can be a contributor with because you really do appreciate the community. So you don't just have community that's fun and plays games and throws parties in the metaverse and blah, 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 because that happens, right? But you also have a group that you are able to contribute. And that's the third thing you want to look for, is you look for a DAO that values contribution instead of the old system of work, which is you pay someone whether they actually are a great contributor or not, right? So, like, in other words, someone in middle management, someone who's in the middle ground, may be more of a contributor than even the executive people, and yet they don't get valued for it. Well, I'm seeing in DAOs that when you contribute and do work, you get greater value. And so if you can look for one with a focused group, one that you feel confident about their purpose and what they're up to, and one that you can really be a contributor in, I think that's what you look for, and you'll see your investment grow because of it.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, this is really answers my question well. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope I'll tell you who to follow on Twitter that I really respect a lot. I think she is brilliant at what she speaks of and the way she assesses, and she's accessible. I mean, she's open. But Chase Chapman is someone that you should follow on Twitter. I just typed her Twitter name into the residency chat. But Chase is someone that I think you could really learn from if you're interested in learning more and more about DAOs. Anybody else? I know we're at our time, right? 12:30. Or then I apologize. I'm so American, right? 12:30 my time in America, but forgive me for my Americanness. But all that to say, I know we're at the limit of what at least we allotted for time. So any final questions before Mathilde wraps us up?
Could I ask? Hi. Could I ask something about? I remember like when we had our class with Artnom, he was sort of saying, you know, like things started 2014, 2015 with NFTs, and like Ethereum started 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So was Bitcoin ever involved in NFTs, or is Bitcoin just out of the equation with anything like that? Because NFT, you know, it's all these other new currencies that popped up in the meantime. But is that just something that doesn't happen?
Yeah, it's a
like
great
that?
question. Yeah, it's a good question. I personally am not aware of any NFT activity with Bitcoin. I think its purpose. I think the purpose of Bitcoin is different than that. But yeah, it was when Ethereum launched, and really NFT. I mean, NFTs certainly began to in very small ways come into being in those early years. But 2017 was really the year that NFTs, that the early group of people who engaged with it, when that really started picking up steam. And somebody I mean, there's several people on Twitter that you can follow that were pioneers in it at that time and helped start some of the early. I just posted Rizzle in there. Rizzle on Twitter. He has a lot of opinions and he likes to share them, and I love Rizzle for it. That's one of the reasons I love him. So if you don't like that, you may not like him, but I love all of his opinions and how funny he is. I think he's a brilliant leader, and he was one of the early pioneers in it, and in 2017ish. When it really picked up steam, and even before that, but he was one of those guys. But yeah, Bitcoin, I don't know of anything connected with it NFT wise.
If I could just add on to that, I think what you're talking about is there were specific works, and they weren't called NFTs when they were on the Bitcoin blockchain. It was just called Art on the Blockchain. But there would be like text-based works that would be like traded, usually from peer to peer, kind of as like an experimental process. But there is one artist that comes to mind. Her name is Nanu Burks, and she would often play with this kind of concept of art on the blockchain using Bitcoin. I can link her Twitter in the chat below if you want to check her out.
Yeah, I would love to. And I know Art on the Blockchain. There's a guy named Eric. Now I'm forgetting Eric's last name, but Eric is one of the creators of artblocks.io. If you're familiar with Artblocks, and you're exactly right, Claudia. That you're exactly right. I see the Rizzle post there. You're exactly right, Claudia. That they didn't call it NFTs at that point, the way we know of them in the current exchanges. But yeah, the art on blockchain piece is actually, I think, a very important piece of our history with regard to this. And I did not know about Nanu Burke, so thank you for turning me on. I'll check her out. Thank you for that.
Great. I think we are out of time right now. So I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I really enjoying this kind of vibe of Q&A, MAA. So it's great, but unfortunately we have to stop here. So thank you so much, Jason. It was an amazing session, and thank you so much to you all guys to participate so actively. So yeah, enjoy your day.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll say real quick, Mathilde, that if anybody wants to interact with me, you can follow on Twitter, and I'll try to follow you back. Especially mention that you were a part of this group, and if y'all will add me to the third residency Twitter list too, I'll try to go on and follow various people. But I've really enjoyed the time today, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was like mind-opening.
Awesome, very cool.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Love this session. Thank you, Jason. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Amat. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful day, night, morning.
Bye.
So-
Bye.
You too. See you later.
Bye, guys. Take care.